Hey guys, welcome to this plumberparts.co.uk video, tools of the trade. This is one of the most important tools you're going to get in the plumbing trade because it's the main tool that heats up the fittings that we're going to be soldering together. Now I know that soldering is just one way we can put pipes together, but if you know how to do this as a plumber or as an apprentice, obviously you're going to go very, very far. Now for some of you might be interested in my lovely shed. Do you want me to do some videos of the tools that I use in my shed? Now, a lot of the stuff in here, I actually do on my other YouTube channel. So this, for instance, here is a big old accumulator with a lamp post for a stovepipe and some inch box section on the bottom that I've made into a nice sort of garden wood burner for a friend of mine who let me use their tennis court over the lockdown because they didn't have a barbecue thing, so I thought I'd build them one. There you go. Anyway, so if you want to see some of that sort of stuff, then let us know. So let's go further into the shed and I'll talk to you about the blowtorch that I use, a couple of little tips about blowtorches, why I use this one, and pretty much, well, you know already where you can get all my tools. You can get all my tools, including this bag, including everything that I use in my Plumber Parts videos on the Plumber Parts Amazon store, okay? So without further ado, let's have a look at my lovely little blowtorch, all right? Let's do it! So the blowtorch is it's one of the most important tools a plumber's gonna have. You're always gonna have a replacement canister whenever you go out. I now solder on propane, which is absolutely lovely. Now usually in my soldering bag, and you guys have seen in here before, I've got my actual blowtorch, which is the main point of this video. I've also got my flux that I have in my fluctuator, which is just there, so that's nice to have. Usually I'll have a little bit of wire wool as well. And what we'll do, we'll just do a quick demonstration with a little bit of 15mm pipe. And I think I've probably got a couple of elbows in here laying about. My brasso, some flux, what the hell? Some solder. Losing my goddamn marbles. My marbles. Some more solder. And look, there we go, I've got an elbow there. Got my massive big old Bosch Hoover there, you've probably seen. I've attached that to a hood actually on this because I do a lot of arc welding in here because arc welding for me is something I trained to do when I was an apprentice. I did a 4-year apprenticeship and we were trained to weld 4-inch steel pipe, which meant a root weld, then a weave over the top, and then they'd have to cut a little slither out of that, usually on a Friday afternoon, and then snap it in half. But if it snapped and like showed little fissures in it, you weren't going to the pub that day. You were going to have to stay and do another one. It was also a time at which if you ever went out for a fag, you'd come back and find the piece that you're working on welded to the table. There you go. So all good, lovely memories from being an apprentice and everything. This is my big vise here that I use for my welding stuff. And most of the welding and bits and bobs, like creating little bits and pieces like that, actually happens on my other YouTube channel, Times of James. Now this is the same burner that I've used, well, since I've been an apprentice. I think it's actually the second one of this model I've had, but I've always used a Super Fire and they are absolutely brilliant. I have used other burners in the past. I've tested them for other manufacturers as well, because that's something you sometimes get to do when you run a YouTube channel about plumbing, I guess. But so far, nothing has quite really come up to the plate when it comes to one of these. These are absolutely fantastic. They're very, very hardy in the van. This thing just takes an absolute beating, and they're very easy to use. They're very easy to gauge the flame. So what we usually have is we have like a click on here, which has a little piezo igniter. Actually, the piezo's up here. So you can open up and regulate your gas flow using this little knob. So that's a lot of gas, and it probably won't light actually. Usually there's so much gas that it will blow it off the flame tube. So, oh no. So there we go. It's full gas. And we can turn it down using this knob here to a nice, easy-going heat, which is, if you're soldering 15mm pipe or 22, you don't really want a big heat. You want this nice, easy-going heat like this. A couple of things about these that does happen with them is you've got a very small, I think this is a 2.5mm Allen key screw in here that often comes quite loose. And you can undo that, and you just have to nip it up every so often. That's literally it. You can do the same here to take the whole lot apart and service it, because there is one little bit of servicing you need to do on these if that's still warm. So one of the things you do need to do with these and need to be careful of when you are soldering is number one, your shed door shutting in the wind. But number two, if you're doing any soldering that's underneath, like so, you've got some very, very small, almost directional impellers, or like a directional impeller in here, that allows the flame to twist. And what that does, that keeps the flame and the heat in a nice concentrated area so you can solder. It doesn't flap around everywhere and wobble about. But sometimes what can happen is, if you're soldering underneath the fitting, you can find that a blob of solder, and this will happen, falls into the nozzle itself because you've run a bit too much on or something like that, or you're just worried that it might leak this particular piece, and it's fallen in there, and that's happened. What you do in those situations, if we have a look here, hopefully you can see those just like there, like that, and you'll know when that's happened because firstly you'll see it, well hopefully you will, but you'll also straight away notice that the flame has gone floppy, it's got bigger. The heat that you like to concentrate, you can't concentrate as well anymore. You'll probably still be able to solder stuff with it, but it won't be as good. So what usually a lot of people probably are like, oh, I've completely ruined my burner. Well, that's not true, because you can actually burn these still using this without anything on it. It usually has to be a lot less gas. So there we go, it's going now. Because now we've taken that off. Now you could just open it up very, very slowly. There we go. And then you can use that heat there to put over this. You'd hold it with a pair of grips, and you actually heat up that solder again, and then you can tap it out. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get pretty much all the solder out of it, and then that will work fine again. Obviously, wait until that's cooled down, because this bit will be warm there before you put this back on. So that's just a little tip there that I always have for these. Another little tip I have for them is to make sure when you're using them to turn the flame down. You'll find lots of people who are inexperienced solderers, new to the trade, or something like that, will have these turned up too high when they're soldering 15 or 22mm pipe. And what I can do is, in my apprentice lecturing days, when I had a lecturer, good old Stevie G out there, if you're still going, mate, at Cambridge Regional College, geezer, you blew the arse off it. That's what he'd say. He goes, "What have you done there, James, future YouTube sensation? You've blew the arse off it." Oh, I tell you what, check this out. You like this? Welding hat. Yeah, boy. So look, let's do a little solder now. Also, I just want to interrupt this video to let you know about the ITS, the ITS end of tax year beast sale. This ends on the 29th of March. If you spend over £100 excluding VAT and use the voucher code Plumberparts Truck at the checkout, you will get one of these lovely little trucks here worth £49.99p. Now, I love a little bit of ITS stuff. You get next day delivery, 7-day delivery as well. There's loads of tools, bits and pieces for you to drool over, salivate over, but also just imagine being able to get one of these and give it to your kids, or just use it to deliver invoices to your customers. So definitely check out ITS's website. They've got over 17,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, so you know what? They're a trustworthy bunch, do you know what I mean? So go and give them a go. I am now going to drive this off this step, because what else are you going to do with one, hey? Got to do it, haven't you? Hey, can it survive the step? Yeah, boy! Oh, just ran it into the tripod. Anyway, on with the video, guys. Oh, one other thing as well is when they start getting low, it's very, very easy for you to replace the gas in them. This is basic stuff here, but I mean, I can still use this now, but we can take this off and you'll hear a psh sometimes, a little psh, but not that time. We've just got a small thread on there, and that pushes down on the valve into that, and that is it. So when you buy one of these, this is usually all you're going to get. You can get packs where you get some gas, you get some solder, you get bits and pieces like that. You can get all those things in those packs. That is it. I mean, these are a really simple tool, but they're so important to know how to use properly. And sometimes you find it's the simple tools that have the most amount of technique to them. For instance, like a screwdriver has quite a lot of technique to it, to how you use it. So let's do a little 15mm solder up now, and then you can just see exactly. I mean, I know I've done plenty of videos on how to solder in the past. So a little bit of a clean. As you can see, my cutters are blunt to hell. They're the set that I don't tend to use. I usually use the ox ones that I've got. So we'll do 2 types of solder. So we're going to do a standard horizontal, which is nice and easy. So just crack that open so it's not just closed basically. That's what you do, just a little crack like that. Press that button and there we go, that's lit up nicely now. And I'll turn that down. Now without trying to burn myself, I just want to give you an idea of the sound of this. Hear that? That's not a lot. You've not got this going on. We don't want that at all. We just want that down. So it's just sat on the flame like that. Nice and beautiful. And then, we've already wiped off our excess flux. But it's a good idea just to heat round. If you can get to the back of the fitting. But usually if you can't get around the fitting, just heat from the bottom as much as you can, because that's where the solder's going to run, and then introduce the solder at the top. Just like so. There we go. And that's done. So how about to doing a bottom one? So our bottom one, we just pop on there, look, and we're just going to heat up the fitting, just like this. And then when it comes to actually adding our solder, and we're heating the pipe up a little bit at the bottom as well, we're just going to take the heat away, run our solder on like that. There we go. Lovely. If you want to, you can wait 10 or 15 seconds and then you can use the end of your flux brush just to give it a bit of a, just a wipe like that. Just to clean the joint up a bit. Or make it worse in this case. And then you can just give it, once it's sort of cooled down a bit, just give it a nice cooling off. And then if you want, give her a clean. So this is actually slightly coarser stuff that I usually use. So there you go. I mean, okay, it's just one of millions of joints I've done in the past. Probably not the most beautiful, but it won't leak. And once it's all done up like that, it's very nice. You know, it looks very thick there. So the one thing, what do you want out of a blowtorch when it comes to this sort of thing? You know what I'd say is you want this. You want a blowtorch that starts every time. You want one that allows you to accurately change the flame. You just know exactly where you are with them. Another thing I like is when they go upside down or when they go upright, sometimes when you move certain blowtorches quite quickly, they'll go out as well. This has never done that. You guys know that I've had this in my bag for absolutely donkey's years. I think if we went back through loads of Plumberparts videos, you'd see this is the one that I always do soldering with. The one thing about all of these, I know you can buy some fatter feet for them or whatever to stop them falling over, but they always fall over. And this one's fallen over a million times and it's still going strong. I just love it. It's been with me for years and years and years, and I couldn't really recommend it highly enough, really. So yeah, very, very nice indeed. So a recap of the major bits on here. This is our on position, that's off. You're never gonna use that. You're always just gonna leave it on, even when you hear it going shh in the back of the van. Trust me, it does happen. But yeah, so you can push it on and light it like that, and then lock it in with that little button just there. There you go. And then you can adjust the flame up and down using this, just on here. There we go, got a beautiful flame just coming out of there, absolutely gorgeous.